is going on, everybody, man? You see the title. I know what you're thinking. Another Madhouse series recon? But can you blame me, dog? Can you blame me when they have released some of my favorite anime that I have watched of all time, but especially within this decade, man? Now, I know the series that I'm going to be discussing was not released in this decade. But with this Santa Recon series, I want to talk about my favorite things that I have experienced within the time frame of 2010 until present day, man. And there is one series that I was really, really into when I was in college that truly made that experience when I was into it such an incredible time of my college life, bro. It was so much fun, man. And I'm talking about the Na greatness, the Ayazawa awesome sauce, bro. Listen to me, dog. You know, when I first got into this whole anime manga thing on the internet, was whenever I was heavily invested in the big three of like going into and seeing what everybody thought in like forums and how I could read and or watch these experiences on a more consistent basis, because I was trying to figure out when chapters came out and all that stuff. Like whenever everybody usually gets into this whole thing, they want to find all that stuff, right? But the One Piece manga really had me like flagners. I want to find out more, and the Bleach anime did too. So those two things had me like, dog, I want to figure out this whole anime manga thing and see what other series I can experience that are on this same caliber that I like, that I really enjoy. And I had already experienced some really popular series at the time, like the Death Notes and whatnot. But at the time, the most popular series that I saw people talking about and or on the sales list, whatever, was the big three: Ice Shield 21, Nana, and Death Note, bro. And I always saw Nana, and I was like, man, I wonder what that series is about, just based on how I always see it near the top of the list. Hell, I think that very same year of whenever I was really getting into watching Bleach online was whenever Nana was like reaching top one. Like it was always up there with the big three. And I was like, God, if this thing is up there with those things, then it has to be, because that was just my mindset at the time. I was like, dog, if this thing is selling as much as this, it gotta be good. And years passed, and I never got a chance to get into it. But one year, there was this one streaming service called Neon Alley. I'm not sure if y'all remember that series, or that streaming service. Viz Media put out like a streaming service where you could watch anime 24/7 off of, I watched it on my PS3, but you could, I think you watched it on the computer too, but I watched it on my game console. And so it was really cool because it gave me an opportunity to watch early One Piece Funimation dub for the first time, because I had experienced the Funimation dub through the Baroque Works saga. I had Drum Island, I had almost all of Alabasta, Skypiea, some of the things in Baroque Works, but I had never experienced the beginning, some of the beginning of the series in the Funimation dub. There wasn't that many clips on YouTube, and you had to go out and buy it. And so I was like, you know what? I just never got around to watching that part in the Funimation dub. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give this Neon Alley thing a shot. And I would watch the Funimation dub episodes of One Piece that they would release on there for the early episodes to see how they sounded. And I would also rewatch some Bleach on there. That's how I first got into series like Tiger and Bunny and Accel World and what was the name of the other one? Nura Rise of the Yokai Clan. Like all that stuff was on there. But there was one particular series that I'd always wanted to check out that was on there, and then I was like, man, I've always been interested in this, and I think it might be the time. And that was Nana. They put Nana on Neon Alley in the midst of all of the stuff that I was watching, and I was like, you know what, man, I'm gonna give this series a shot. So one day, whenever I was heading out from one of my classes, I always went to the library in the middle of classes. There was two buildings right next to each other. I was always in one of those two. It was in the TOC, which was in the building where most people studied in. Studying in that building, and that wasn't me, Skip. Your boy went in there I did a live reaction in that thing on the old channel. When Bleach came back after its long hiatus, I went and did a live reaction in that building on the computer with everyone else around me studying. I was like, bro, I don't care. Are you kidding me? Bleach, dog? I was like, no, I'm reading this chapter ASAP. And ain't no one stopping me. You feel me? But that's just the way that it was. But the TOC was right there, and then the other building was the library. I was always in one of those two. But the library, I always found I had more of my intimate and personal immersive experiences in this medium in that building, in the library. Like, that's where I experienced a lot of incredible manga and a lot of great anime. And a lot of re-experiences, too. with rewatches, but there was one series in particular, man, that just encapsulated that entire library college experience of going to class, getting super, super stoked. Like, after I leave this class, I'm going to that Nana greatness. Especially since that was the period in my college life where I only had one class that was about my actual degree, and everything else was like math and all that stuff. And I was like, brother, I'm just trying to get to what I came to, and what I paid for to learn. You know what I'm saying? So at that point in time, I really needed something to get my mind off that garbage. So I was like, you know what? After I leave class A in the morning, library, let's do it. And Nana was the best example of that, man. I remember sitting down and watching the first, I think it was like 3 episodes, and just being in so much awe of how the story was being told and how it was being portrayed. I adored the concept of having 2 characters with the same exact name, coming from 2 completely different sides of the spectrum, and yet they immediately bond and become friends on this train of fate. And now we're going to see how their story intertwines in the future, but of course their own individual stories, how they are as individuals, how they are as characters, finding out more about their past, finding out more about who they are, and seeing everything from their side, but also how that is eventually going to connect. And what I loved is how the episodes ended with narration coming from Nana from the future. And I was like, dog, this is my stuff. I really, really adore this. And then the music. Listen, man, Nana has an incredible openings. You know, Wish and what was it? Black Rose Night, I think is the other one. Those 2 openings go in like swimwear. The OST goes in like swimwear, but there is nothing like those endings, man. Starless Night is still in my top 5 favorite endings in all of anime. Absolutely incredible theme. I adore Starless Night, man. But it just became a regular routine. There was this one, because in my library, you would be able to rent a laptop and take it into the back side. On the back side, right behind all the bookcases, was this L-shaped thing filled with desks. So it was a bunch of desks, but separate in those desks were little cubicle-like box things. Because it was dedicated for studying. Like, people who went back to, they usually went back to their study. Like I said with the TOC, your boy was going back to the study, sometimes. But your boy was going back there to experience some greatness, man. So, in between classes, and at the time I was taking 4. So in between, like, those hour-and-a-half periods between classes, dog, I was going in there like swimwear on some Nana greatness, man. And it was like, I think it took me like a month to get through the series, but that month was so much fun, bro. I mean, just going into, after almost every single class, I mean, sometimes, you know, there was those exceptions where you just couldn't do it. You went to go hang out with friends, whatever the case may be. But whenever I was in that library, most of the time, unless I was writing, I was watching some Nana in that time period. And it was just such a fun experience that I'll never forget, that of just, like, that high of, you know, class is about to end, and you're like, time to go watch Nana, dog! Especially when the cliffhangers would hit, man, because there was certain points in times in the anime where the cliffhangers were too much, and I was like, dog, and then I had to go to class after that. I'm like, no! And even with me saying that, I can't recall a single moment where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go and watch this at home. I loved the whole idea of me experiencing this series in one place, that I was like, this is going to be the place where I experience Nana. And I ended up experiencing basically the entire series. Even though my original intent was to watch some of it in the library and watch the rest of it on Neon Alley, I was loving it so much in the entire experience, you know, because whenever you're in a library, like, everything's so quiet, you can truly get immersed because no one's bothering you. You know, sometimes at home, you're watching something, people come into your room, barge in, tell you to do stuff. Nah, not in the library, dog. You're in there, you're chilling. You're chilling, ain't no one telling you to do nothing. You just, yeah. So, and I adored it, especially since that was a point in time in my life where I was barely home anyway. You know, whenever I was home, I was doing YouTube. So, it was school in the morning, work at night, and repeat the process. But it's just, that was my time. That was my time to truly be free and experience some stuff that I really, really enjoyed. And I got so much out of Nana, with the wonderful characters, the wonderful experiences, the most incredible emotional moments, man, that truly grip at you. I'll never forget, I think it's episode 19, but it's the concert sequence. Whenever they're playing Pain, it's ending 1, if I'm not mistaken, was the soundtrack that they were playing in the concert. And I just remember experiencing that. Whenever you see the tear going on Nana's face, I was getting mad teary-eyed, dog. I was like, man, this is too much, bro. This is amazing. It just, the way that the stories developed and getting to find out more about both Nana's backstories, how they got to this point in time, and seeing the things that affect them on a personal level, how flawed both characters are, and that's what makes them great characters. Getting to see all of the other wonderful characters within both of their sides, and how their relationships continue to spring forward, and how their destinies and their fates would intertwine due to relationships connecting between one side and the other. It was just absolutely fantastic. And I remember when I finished the story, because the story was left unfinished and it gave us a filler ending, I was just left so devastated, because I was like, man, Nana could literally, if I mean, it already is one of my favorites, but if the manga would have ended, like if it would have had a conclusive ended in Nana, and that would have been animated, it would without question be one of the greatest completed masterpieces in the business, because it was that good. And it'll be one of those experiences that I always look back really fondly on, because it was so unique, because I experienced it exclusively while I was in school, in that little corner in the cubicle every single day in between classes. And it just, I loved it, man. I adored it, and I wouldn't give it back for anything in the world. It was just so much fun, and just, like I said, the overall experience of also experiencing something you'd never experienced before, because that was really one of my first moments of exposure to a series like that. Even though to this day I haven't experienced a series like Nana anyway, but it truly opened my eyes to the wonderful variations of a way a story could be told within other genres, that just make everything worthwhile and worth experiencing. Because you know how most of the time we want to stick in our bubbles and be like, you know, if it's not A or if it's not X, I'm not going to get into it. Nana was one of those series that told me, you know what, man? You know, the barriers are open. It doesn't matter what the genre is. It doesn't matter what it says on the description sidebar, whether it's this, that, or this. This series can produce some greatness, and it can really immerse you in an incredible story, especially when you got Madhouse behind the wheel, you know what I'm saying? But Nana will always be one of those series that has a special place in my heart for opening my eyes in that way, but also for the wonderful cast of characters, and just the overall original journey to get through that series. And Nana was one of those, if I would have been live reacting to that series, those would have ended up being always like 3 to 4 episodes each and every single time, because that's why I watched it, because the cliffhangers were too much. The cliffhangers would always kill me, man. It was absolutely crazy. 47 episodes of greatness, and I'll never forget it, man. It was truly an experience of legend, and one of those, when I think back to why it is I decided to make this whole series in the first place, it was to talk about experiences like that. Wonderful binging experiences that just stick with you and that you'll never forget. And that's what Nana is to me, man. And of course, after that, I went and I checked out the manga, and to this very day, I'm still waiting for a next chapter. But the initial anime experience is truly what made me a massive fan, and I'll always be a fan of Nana because of that initial experience, man. But yo, I hope everybody has an awesome rest of a day, man. Shout out to Black Trapnest greatness, and forward to seeing whenever the manga returns eventually one day, man. But everybody has an awesome rest of a day, man. Take care. Nana greatness. This has been day number 2 of the 25 days of Santa Recon. I will see everybody next time. Have an awesome day. Nana greatness. Open up my heart, open up. It's the greatness, dog. Yo, one more thing. I forgot to talk about this, dude. So, y'all know Trapnest, right? So, I experienced Nana, I think it was a little bit after I experienced Hunter x Hunter. And so, when I saw Trapnest and how they always alluded to them, like they were always in the background, but you could tell they were formidable, like they were the most popular band that was around, I was so hyped. I was like, yo, I was as hyped for Reira as I was whenever I was like, yo, I want to meet the leader of the Phantom Troop. So I was like, dude, I cannot wait to meet these Trapnest characters. And of course, they ended up changing the entire story and all the relationships that followed from there. But dude, the initial character arcs and the way the story developed between the two characters of Shin and Reira, to this very day, when people ask me what are my favorite ships or pairings in this medium, Reina and Shin is like top 3, dog. I wanted everything and more for those two characters. I was like, bro, give them prosperity in life, dog. Let them be happy. Because I was like, yo, Shin is my boy. That was my dude. But then I was like, yo, he found happiness within Reina, and then the way that story developed and how I just love. I was into that jump. Man. I was like, yo, this we were to have an entire series just based on how like a spinoff on Reina and Shin's development as a relationship. Oh. Give me like a 13 episode anime on that. That's a 14 out of 10 right there, dog. But I just had to talk about that because I can't believe I forgot to talk about Trapnest, man. How the story developed after them truly becoming prominent characters, and how so many of those characters became extremely important to the series, like Takumi and whatnot. But now, man, Reina and Shin, every time I saw them, I was like, yeah. I mean, it gave me warmth in the heart. I was like, Shin. Oh, so I just had to get that off my chest, man. Y'all have a good one, though.